Hi there. In a previous video, which I'll link to below, I explored some of the ways that our thinking about the future can work against us. I made the distinction between planning, when we intentionally time travel mentally to the future to help us think of realistic obstacles and mitigate and plan for those. But if we're not planning, we might be predicting. We might be making very firm decisions about what's going to happen, even though we don't know, and that can upset us in the present moment. And of course, we can engage in playwriting, which means we get stuck into a mental soap opera. We're creating an entire script for a scenario that hasn't happened yet, and we're feeling the emotions from that in the here and now. In this video, I want to look at its equivalent when it comes to the past, because of course our mental time travel can take us to the future or the past. I'm Dr. Richard McKinnon. I'm a chartered psychologist and coach, and on this channel, I like to share insights from the world of psychology to help you be your best self at work. So the first thing I want to say is that mental time travel isn't inherently a bad thing. So if you notice your mind going to the future and the past, don't worry. My point is that sometimes our mind takes us to the future and the past when we don't really want to do that, when it's not really helpful, and it might involve us feeling strong emotions that take away from the present moment or whatever it is we want to be doing in that moment. So it's really useful to recognize when our focus has gone from here and now to maybe scary or anxiety-inducing future. And the same applies to the past. So just like with our distinction between planning, predicting, and playwriting, we've got two examples of kind of past-oriented thinking that I find it's really useful to distinguish between. First of all, if you want to go back in time in your mind, you might want to revisit a previous experience because something happening right now prompts you to think, I've been through something like this before, or I've seen something like this before, or how did I deal with something like this before? You're intentionally going back in your mind to maybe learn from experience, to maybe find a solution for something you're dealing with now. You might go back in time to reconnect with a past success, to remind yourself, yes, I can do this. I've done it many times before. Or to reflect on how you might improve. You might go back to something that didn't go so well, but to identify, what could I do differently next time? How could I make my experience of this better next time? And even if it was a terrible setback or a mistake you made, you might say, how can I learn from that to draw a line under it and make sure that isn't repeated in that way again? All of this can be really, really helpful. And it's a form of mental time travel. You're going back to the past, but you're looking at your past through the lens of learning. You want to take something from that. So all of that, I put in a category called reflection. I'm reflecting on past experience to benefit present and probably future me. And that drawing a line under it can be really, really helpful. It doesn't mean we're going to forget that terrible experience because that's not how memory works. But we're not going to revisit it out of a compulsion, or we're not going to revisit it just to put ourselves through a terrible experience again. And that's what brings me to the second example of this. If we're not reflecting, but we're going back time and time again to a past disappointment or embarrassment or failure, however you want to put it, and we're feeling those emotions and we're reliving it, and in all likelihood we're maybe blowing it out of proportion. Maybe we're reliving it a little bit like a Hollywood film, in Technicolor up on the big mental screen. And we're feeling all of those emotions all over again without learning from it, without a key takeaway. That's a little bit like picking at a sore. That's rumination. Ruminating, going over and over a difficulty, a setback, a challenge, a failure, without noting how you might do things differently in the future. This is a really useful distinction. Am I reflecting? Am I ruminating? And if you find yourself doing the latter, you can just pause and see, what is it I can take from this? What lessons can I learn from this? Or what compassion for myself can I bring to this? So maybe I can forgive myself. Maybe I can better understand what I was experiencing then, what I was thinking, or indeed what I was learning as I went through that experience. When we're reflecting, it helps our growth. When we're ruminating, it has a tendency to hold us back. And while thoughts will and do come back again and again, we can practice getting some distance from those so that they don't interfere with the here and now. They don't take us away necessarily from what we ideally want to be doing in this moment. I hope you found this distinction between the two kinds of going to our past-oriented thinking useful. Think about subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content like this. But for now, thank you for watching.